My name is Sullivan, and today I'm going to be talking about Grimm's Law. What did the English word three and the Spanish word tres have in common with one another? They both come from the Proto-Indo-European root tre. But there's one difference between the words that is very important: the way that they sound. The Spanish tres seems to take its sounds directly from the Proto-Indo-European tre, but the English three changes the first letters of the root to make a th sound. This is just one example of the way that Germanic sounds differ from their Proto-Indo-European roots. These changes make it unclear how a word descended from its ancestor, like the word three descending from the Proto-Indo-European tre. These words sound very different, so when did the change occur? Why are English words and their Proto-Indo-European bases so different? This question is exactly what Grimm's Law addresses. Grimm's Law is a set of rules put forth by Jacob Grimm, although originally discovered by Rasmus Rask, that establishes how the sounds of Proto-Indo-European roots changed as Germanic languages emerged. It is based on the Neo-Grammarian hypothesis, which says that if one sound changes, they all do. For example, if the t in the word eat changes to an sound, ear, then all of the other t sounds in this context will eventually shift to an sound as well. So, Grimm says that when one Proto-Indo-European sound changed, all of the other words with that sound did as well. There are three rules to Grimm's Law. First, voiceless stops become voiceless fricatives. That likely means nothing to you, but it's really simple. Sounds that are punctual and stop airflow, like t or p, become sounds that are smoother, th or f. So the general rules are that p becomes f, t becomes th, k becomes h, and qu becomes hua. And it's hard to really understand how these changes sound, so here's an example. The English word foot comes from the Proto-Indo-European ped, because the sound p changed to an f sound. Another example of this rule includes the word three that I mentioned earlier, which comes from the Proto-Indo-European root tre, when the t sound changed to a th sound. The second rule of Grimm's Law is that voiced stops become voiceless stops. Again, it's not as complicated as it sounds. Essentially, sounds that are short but use vocal cords, b or g, drop their use of their vocal cords and become punctual, p or k. The general rules are that b becomes p, d becomes t, g becomes k, and gua becomes qu. Again, it's hard to understand these changes without an example. The English word lip comes from the Proto-Indo-European root leb, when the b changed to a p. Another numerical example would be the English word two. Two went through a change kind of like three did. It comes from the Proto-Indo-European root du, because the d sound changed into a t sound. And finally, what are called voice aspirated stops become voice stops. This means that sounds that are short but expel a lot of air, like g, lose that expulsion of air, g. This expulsion of air is shown by an h at the end of each sound. So the rules are that b becomes b, d becomes d, g becomes g, and gua becomes gua. A great example of this change is the English word door, coming from the Proto-Indo-European dwer, when the dwa became a dwa. Now this example actually isn't in the list, but that's because a lot of these changes are varied, and this is probably the most general rule of the Grimm's Law. Probably my favorite example of Grimm's Law is the English word brother, because it demonstrates two different changes. It comes from the Proto-Indo-European brutter. Not only does the b sound change to a b, but also the t sound changes to a th in the English word, which is an example of the first rule of Grimm's Law, where voiceless stops become voiceless fricatives. Understanding the rules of Grimm's Law is very important in tracing back the origins of English words. Without it, we would be unsure of exactly which root a word traces back to. It also helps us understand the difference within the Germanic branch of the Indo-European tree. Grimm's Law gives us a concrete set of rules that allows us to distinguish where English and Proto-Indo-European diverged. Here are my sources, and thank you for your time.